Live from station WDWL TV, broadcasting from Studio A, located on Grumpy Old Man Road. And it's the Grumpy Old Man, me, and the Grumpy Vulture Show. Take your bow. Look at the camera. There we go. I warned him. I found where he hid the one from yesterday. I still haven't found the other two because they were in the storeroom. Not anymore. So I'm on a hunt for the other two zip ties, but I found two of them. And as you can see, I was a man of my word. And for sure tomorrow the hotline will be ringing, but I don't give a fuck. I noticed we finally, fingers crossed, got the echo out. But the way things are with this sound system, have no idea. Trying out some newer lighting in the studio. I don't know if I like it, but, you know, when management sends maintenance in to put lights up, I told them it's drowning out my live on air sign. You can't see the colors, but they don't care. They probably spent a whole $1.398 for that set of lights up there. Matter of fact, one of them's starting to burn out already. Oh boy, they spent big money for. You gotta be kidding me. Two of the LEDs and the light on the end are burned out already. Oh, they must have got that at some garage sale somewhere. Only the best for Grumpy. Before I get into the silver dollar story, I had to run up to the store. And as I'm getting ready to walk in the door, I hear somebody yell, "Your truck is rolling." And I'm thinking, holy shit. And I turn around. Wasn't my truck, but it was an older Chevy. And it was a manual. A truck after my own heart, but evidently when the guy got out of it, either he forgot to put it in gear or he knocked it in neutral. And the truck is rolling through the parking lot. Evidently somebody must have yelled in the store, "Hey, you know, there's an old Chevy pickup truck rolling in the parking lot." This guy comes dashing out the other door past me, chasing his rolling pickup truck. Now, the truck is rolling towards a brand new 2024 Cadillac Lyric. Now, if anybody out there doesn't know what a Lyric is, that's Cadillac's newest fully electric vehicle. I like it because when you go to get in, the headlights zip up and down and the marker lights go all different directions and the daytime running lights it's a real light show. I don't know how this guy made it to to his truck to grab onto the tailgate to stop it from rolling, because when he finally got it stopped and he yelled for somebody to drop it in gear, it was about that far from the front end of that Cadillac Lyric. And I'll tell you what, I can guarantee it would have probably wiped the whole front end off that car because, you know, everything's all plastic today. But yeah, it was making a direct roll. And the owner of the Lyric, he was standing there in fright like, no! How the guy got his truck stopped, I'll never know. But it was like 6 inches. So, after he backed it to the original parking space and made sure it was in gear, I asked him, I says, how did you manage to stop that truck? He says, I don't know, but I left about 50 feet of my shoe leather in the parking lot skidding until I could get it to stop. I says to him, no e-brake? He says, oh, I haven't had an e-brake for years. I says, yeah, I'm the same way. I always triple check before I get out of the truck that it's in gear. And if I'm, you know, on a hill and I've backed into a parking space, I make sure it's in first. And he says, I could have swore I had that thing in gear. I said, well, quite obvious you didn't. But thank your shoe leather, because your insurance company had been paying some big bucks to fix that car. That car's so new, they probably don't even have parts in the parts department for it yet. But if you ever see a commercial for a Cadillac Lyric, the commercial starts with the light show that car puts on. It's really cool to let you know that your electricity is running. Okay, enough of the Cadillac Lyric story. Let's get on to Grandpa's silver dollar story. Now, I have it in a little plastic safety container. This is an 1886 silver dollar. In beautiful condition. Well, I got the wings upside down. Come on, Grumpy, get the eagle right. There it is. $1, United States of America, 1886. That's what I say. One of these days I got to get it appraised. My grandfather came here from Hungary in 1919. He was 22. And over there, he told me, even back in the 1900s, you could learn English in school. And I'll tell you what, he was quite proficient in English. I mean, no accent. Of course, you know, by the time I was born, he had a long time to work the accent out, but he had perfect English. Well, back in the day, in order to make money, a lot of the immigrants would wait outside the steamships for the people to exit, and mainly the rich people. And then they would offer to deliver their their bags and suitcases and steamer trunks to their hotels. And Grandpa had salvaged an old flat cart out of the scrap and fixed it. Because a lot of the guys, they were just lugging the suitcases and then they'd have to go back, and there was always a possibility of theft. But with this flat cart, he could load everything. Unless the guy had, 450 suitcases. Well, this rich dude in this, perfectly hand-tailored, three-piece suit, nice fedora, fancy rings, come down the gangplank, and Grandpa offered, I deliver your suitcases to the hotel. Now, on an average, these guys would be, lugging heavy suitcases, and they'd be lucky to get a nickel or a dime, 15 cents, although that was big money back in 1919. So he approaches this gentleman, and the gentleman said, well, how are you going to, Grandpa showed him the cart. So he says, okay, my luggage is over there. And Gramps said he had several bags in a big steamer trunk, and they were expensive. The luggage was, you could tell, he said, even back in the day. So, Grandpa said he was extremely delicate loading the luggage onto his flat cart. He put the steamer trunk on first, the larger bags, and the guy was very impressed because he was looking around and, the other guys were throwing the bags around. They didn't give a shit, And the hotel was like 6 blocks away. So he tells Grandpa what hotel. The guy hails down a cab. He goes up to the hotel, and he says, I'll be waiting in the lobby. So after a while, lugging that flat cart, Grandpa finally showed up. And, of course, the bellman, or whatever you call he comes out with a cart, and he takes the luggage off, and he puts it on the hotel cart. So the gentleman comes out, and he says, you were the first guy that ever treated my luggage with respect. He says, I'm going to give you a quarter. Now, a quarter was like $10. So Grandpa was very appreciative. He thanked him several times, and he says, as he turned to walk away, the guy called him back. He reaches in his pocket, and he pulled out this silver dollar. Now, in 1919, this silver dollar was like a $100 bill. And he says, here's a little tip for you. And Grandpa's like, I can't take that, The guy said, take it. He says, but let me tell you something. He says, I know you're working to survive. You can do one of two things. You can spend that, or you can keep it as a good luck charm, because you will know you always have money, even though you're not spending it. And he says, if you and this is where evidently, the old, if you watch the pennies, the dollar will watch himself come along, because the guy says, if you watch that dollar, it will reward you many times over. Well, Grandpa said it was tough not spending that silver dollar. But he always valued someone wiser than him. And he said, he thought about it many times over. He goes, well, even though I only got, a couple pennies in my pocket, I've got this dollar in my billfold. They didn't call them wallets, a billfold. And he says it was very tempting many times to spend that. Because a lot of times, you couldn't haul luggage every single day. Steamships weren't in and out like they are today. In comes a cruise ship and there's 4,000 people on board. It wasn't like that back in the day. So Grandpa said he saw a sign at an insurance company, insurance agency, I should say, of help wanted. Now, as Grandpa was going in, he said 3 men were coming out, and they told him, don't bother. You're not going to get hired. All 3 of these guys. Grandpa says he must have said the right thing when the guy was interviewing him, because he got hired. And it was a janitor's job to take care of this insurance agency. And he says it didn't hit him right away. But about a week and a half later, he said, that silver dollar brought me luck, because 3 men before me didn't get hired. Now, Grandpa could have said the right thing or had the right look. Well, it wasn't that long. Grandpa worked his way from the janitor to being an office assistant to one of the insurance agents, to then finally becoming an agent. And there, he said it could have been attributed to the dollar or his hard work. But he always said everything good that happened to him came from the good luck of never spending that silver dollar. And in 1928, Grandpa had worked himself to the position where he owned 2 insurance agencies. One was here in Cleveland because he was living here. He was, married to my grandmother. And one in St. Louis, because he lucked out and he caught it at the right time. The guy that was selling the agency in St. Louis just happened to mention it to the right people, and they said, Joe might be interested. He's a hell of an insurance salesman. And Grandpa, he told me, back in the day, insurance was hard to sell. But he had clients all over. Matter of fact, he said he insured one of the larger buildings in downtown Cleveland. And he would commute, of course, by train, riding, first class or whatever they have on a train. I don't know if they call it first class, between Cleveland and St. Louis. And things were going great. He not only had the 2 insurance agencies, he purchased a house, because at that time they were living with my grandmother's parents over on East Boulevard in Cleveland, which back in the 20s was a very influential neighborhood. Big, large houses, almost like mansions. And Grandpa bought himself a Pierce Arrow. Now, Pierce Arrow was America's kind of version of a Rolls Royce. Even a step above Cadillac and Lincoln. And my sister, I keep telling her I want a copy of the picture. She has a picture of him in his, dapper 3-piece suit and his watch chain, and leaning on the fender of his Pierce Arrow parked in the driveway over on East Boulevard. And then the Depression hit. And he lost everything. As a matter of fact, he told me when he lost everything, when the stock market crashed, he was in St. Louis. And he didn't want to waste the money on a train ticket. So he rode back from St. Louis to Cleveland in a boxcar, along with other hobos, we'll call them, because back in that day, everybody, freeloaded on a train. They couldn't afford a ticket to ride inside, in the fancy cars. They rode in the box cars, cattle cars, where, whatever when they hop a freight, whatever they could get into. And luckily, even back then, my grandmother was a big saver. And she never, for some unknown reason, even when Grandpa was making money, trusted banks. And she said, luckily, they didn't have their money in a bank. Because for like every $100, you might have got 25 cents or 50 cents. She always hid money in a shoebox in the closet. And I'll tell you what, it took her years and years and years to have enough trust to open a bank account. And she said the minimum was like $5. And she told Grandpa, she goes, I'm going to risk $5 and open a savings account and see what happens. Luckily, There was no more crashing, no more loss of money, but like she told me, she would take, and only, the maximum of $50. Even though she said we had the shoebox full of money. Took her a long time to trust banks. And Grandpa had built himself back up. He had gotten a couple of really great jobs. Started making some money because he lost the insurance, and he said, I'm not going into that anymore. I want something with some stability. And never going to college or trade school, he learned electrical engineering, and he learned how to run multiple size boilers. And he had worked himself up to become heating and electrical engineer of the old Cleveland Psychiatric Hospital, which Metro absorbed after a while. And he was driving a Studebaker Golden Hawk, which was a very influential car. Not like a Cadillac or a Lincoln, but a Studebaker Golden Hawk was top of the line. And that silver dollar remained in his billfold until the day he told me the story and he passed it down to me. And I was 19 at the time, 18. I just graduated from high school. And I've had it ever since. Now, there have been a couple of times I've been down on my luck. And I was like, let me see what it's worth. And then something stopped me from going to a coin shop. And it was basically Grandpa's story. That if you have this in your wallet, you'll at least have $1. I don't know what, I'm sure it's worth more than $1. And it'll bring you luck. I didn't have the kind of luck that Grandpa had. But any luck that I've had over the years, I attribute to this 1886 silver dollar. And like Grandpa said, back in, 1919, 1920, 21, it was, he was making pittance. And this was a lot of money. And there were times he said he was down to pennies in his pocket. But he never spent it. Because he said it brought him luck. Now, of course, when the stock market crashed, there was no luck to be found, even with the silver dollar. But like he told me, he said, a lot of guys that were hopping freight trains were robbed and beaten and killed for what little they had. And he said he was never accosted by anyone. And he attributed it to the luck of this silver dollar. It's a silver dollar. I don't know, maybe it's worth $50, $100, I don't know. I haven't really bothered to look. I could look it up online, but you know, you gotta really take it to a coin shop, because they'll tell you, you know, they rate them A, B, C, D as far as condition and so on and so forth, but there it is. Grandpa's silver dollar. His good luck piece. And once he gave it to me, he never asked me if I had it. Because I think he knew I was never going to get rid of it. Mainly out of respect for him. And all the good times we had. Especially pissing Grandma off with Limburger cheese. Now some of you might go, isn't that much of a touching story? Well, maybe to the general public, it isn't. To me, that silver dollar means a lot. I may never have it appraised. I really don't, in a way, want to know what it's worth. It's more the sentimental value. And once I would sell it, sooner or later that money's gone. And I know Grandpa'd be rolling over in his grave going, oh, you asshole. I keep it out of respect for him. Because like I say, I was his favorite. Of course, I was the only grandson. But being the firstborn and a grandson, he spoiled the shit out of me. Oh, I'll tell you what. Every time he would introduce me to a new person, he would just be beaming like a spotlight was on him, you know. Oh, this is my grandson. And, you know, when you're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, it don't sink in. Matter of fact, it didn't really sink in for years. But in a way, I think he was more proud of me than he was of my father. And my father was an only child. And my father had gone through the war and got injured and survived and, you know, got his Purple Heart and I know, you know, Grandpa was proud of him for serving his country, although he didn't have much choice. When Uncle Sam says, hey, you, come here, you're coming with me. Well, okay, you don't have much choice. But in a way, I seem to surpass my father. Because he just beamed all the time. This is my grandson. Oh. And in a way, I think he got a kick out of how I got spoiled by all the vendors at the market. Because every Saturday, they made sure they took care of me. Especially the smoky stand. Oh. We'd no sooner get about 10 feet away from the stand than the guy'd have that handful of smokies ready to hand over the counter. Here you go. Grandpa says you're a good boy. Every Saturday, same thing. Grandpa said you're a good boy. If you want more, come back. I did a couple of times, and Grandpa says, hey, don't wear out a good thing. But up until I was 18, the original owner had passed the stand down to his son. And I think while passing the stand down to his son, he passed the Smoky story down to his son. Because his son would, here you go. Grandpa says you're a good boy. And my father said the same thing. Give you Smokies. By then it was like a big, oh, hey, thank you. And even his son would be like, hey, you want more? Come on back. And sometimes I went back. But I didn't want to get the stink eye from Grandpa and ruin a good thing. Because maybe he wouldn't keep me overnight Saturday and we wouldn't be drinking our coffee on Sunday morning. It was hilarious because even when I was 16, 17 years old, we washed the coffee cups before Grandma got home. That was a secret that she never found out. Him and I drinking coffee from like age 6. My parents always wondered why, Sunday night, aren't you asleep yet? No. Well, go to sleep. It's 11 o'clock. I'm wide awake. It was that caffeine buzz. But yeah, that was our big thing. Our heathen feast on Saturday and coffee on Sunday. And then making sure the cups got put with the handles so Grandma didn't get any idea. And boy, we made sure them cups were dry. One time she picked one up. Something going on with you two. Us? Never. She'd be like, yeah, you two are thick as thieves. I know something's going on when I go to church. I just haven't figured it out yet. Just sitting here reading the comics, Grandma. Nothing going on. She'd be like, how come I don't see milk glass? Grandpa has his coffee. Doesn't he give you no milk? Nah. Didn't feel like cold milk in the morning. We could have heated it up. I'll pass. I'm surprised she didn't say, let me smell your breath. You got coffee in your breath? No. Coffee? I'm not even allowed to look at the pot, Grandma, let alone drink it. I know something going on with you two. I just can't put my finger on it. And then Grandma'd leave the room, and Grandpa and I would be like, yeah, we put none over on her another Sunday. But yeah, that's the silver dollar story. I wonder what it would be like today in today's money to have a dollar in 1919. I would say in today's money, maybe $100. I'm going to have to figure that out. I'm going to have to gargle things. But I know that was big bucks. Especially when Grandpa said, you'd be lucky to lug some guy's bag, 12 blocks to a hotel and he'd give you a nickel. Although in 1919, nickel was worth a lot more than it is today. But that's how things went when he got off the boat. He come in at Ellis Island. As a matter of fact, he told me a little secret. Well, it wasn't that big a secret, but I never knew it. The spelling of our name he got out of a 1919 city phone directory for New York City. Because when he left Hungary, he left because his father was a tyrant. And he couldn't put up with it. And he wanted to get as far away as he could. And he had been saving money. And so did his sister. And they were able to purchase a basic ticket on a steamship. And the two of them came over from Hungary. And it's a shame because I lost track of Grandpa's sister. Because the spelling of her last name was way different than the spelling of our last name. Because she also didn't want to be found. Both of them had the fear that maybe their parents would come to America and look for them. He never talked much about his childhood. He just kept using the word tyrant. His father was a tyrant. And I can imagine but yeah, he told me what the original spelling is. Not even close. And then to find out our last name came out of a 1919 New York City phone directory. and that's what went on his paperwork when he was processed through Ellis Island. And he said back then, it was quite easy to become a citizen. Is the one thing I thought about years later. He had to have some sort of paperwork when he left Hungary. Although, like he said, a lot of the immigrants, they didn't have anything when they come in. You know, it's not like today, you got to have a passport, you know. He just got off the boat and went through processing at Ellis Island and said, here's my name. Okay, Joe. Now he left Joseph. He kept his original first name and his middle name. But he changed the last name. So, it make it a real bitch for me to try to do an ancestry search. Although I do know the correct spelling of what our real name should be. I always said, if I ever needed an alias, I'd use that name. Because that person don't exist. But yeah, he didn't want his parents to find him. And him and his sister, they were only together a couple of years, and then she went out west. And every now and then she'd write him, and then we kind of lost contact, so we don't know if she got married or what. I would have liked to have met her. He talked very fondly of his sister. She was a year younger than him. He never had any pictures either. Of course, he said they were poor. They couldn't, wasn't like today. Everybody's got their DSLR cameras or their cell phones. But he talked about her quite a bit. I would have liked to met her. She sounded like she was a fabulous person. But when you're hiding, you really don't want to be found. And it wasn't that she was hiding from, her brother. It's just she had this deep-seated fear that one day her parents were going to show up in America and start searching. Grandpa wasn't worried so much because of the name change, although she shouldn't have really had to worry either, but she did. He said she worried a lot. There'd be a knock at the door, and he said she'd cringe. But they never came over. At least he never knew if they did. Yeah, he said one night he packed what little belongings he had. His parents went to bed. He made sure they were asleep. And he was gone. Him and his sister. They snuck out of the house, and I don't know where they lived in Hungary, but they made it to a steamship. Came over. And the rest is history. Our name come out of a 1919 New York City phone directory. That was an interesting story. He told me when I was like 17. I was like, what? Our name's not our name? He said, well, according to the government, it is. I said, was that easy? He goes, yeah. You know, when they were processing boatloads of immigrants, they weren't too fussy back in 1919. But he filled out the entrance paperwork, looked in a phone book. Oh, that name sounds okay. There we go. That's me. Kind of a shocker. I was like, really? And then he told me the story, which I agreed with him. And I said, phone book? You got our name out of a phone book? He said, well, it's worked all these years. Yeah. Legally, on his Social Security card, it was that name. And it's been that name ever since. But yeah, although I thought it was kind of ingenious. You know, who would have thought? Well, let's see, I don't want to use my real name. A phone book. That one. Like Grandma picked a car. That one. That's me. Walked up to the counter, went, this is me. And then he said they took immigrants' pictures, snap, with his name, like a prisoner, you know. Joseph E. That's us. Phone book name. After the shock wore off, I was like, okay, it works. A lot easier to say and spell than our original name. Spelling, not so much. Pronunciation, because our original name had some hard letters in it. So, you know, our name kind of rolls off the tongue. The other one was like, oh, don't like the sound of that. Yeah. So you get two stories in one. You get the silver dollar story and our fake name story, our phone book name. I'd like to do that sometime. What's your name, sir? Well, you want our real name or our phone book name? What the fuck you talking about? Real name or phone book name? Well, our name's a phone book name. Just, what's your name? Never mind the... Maybe. Yeah, that'd confuse the shit out of somebody. Especially a cop walking up to the door of your car, you know, stops you for speeding. What's your name, sir? Well, officer, you want my real name or my phone book name? Give me your name. Okay. You want my driver's license? I'm reaching into my pocket. You can put the weapon away. Well, you're a smart ass. Okay, I'll stop. You want me to assume the position? No, stay in the car. Keep your hands on the steering wheel, though, till I check you out. Real name or phone book name. I can see him get in the car. Car 127, the radio. Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to have you run a name. The guy asked me, he says, he had two names. A real name and a phone book name. This is his phone book name. He checks out okay? All right. Walks up to the door. Here, Mr. Phone Book Name, here's your driver's license back. Slow down. Okay. Whew. I almost became Swiss cheese over a phone book name. Yeah, I've told the story to a couple of my friends. When they see me, hey, phone book name, come here. Assholes. I bet your grandfather did the same thing, just didn't tell you. You might have a phone book name too. Yeah. My name is a phone book name. So that those of you that know me, the secret is out now. I go by an alias. I go by a phone book name. Not my real name. And I ain't gonna tell you my real name. Because I've been phone book named since I was born. It's the only name I know. Up until I was 16. Then I got the phone book name, or the real name. I was like, oh, jeez. I almost thought about changing it. And I was like, oh, I don't like them hard consonants. I'll keep it where it just rolls off the tongue. I didn't realize I put them on like antennae. Now you look like a giant bug. Looks like a giant beetle. Two big antennae. I don't care what you tell the CEO tomorrow morning. I think it's fucking hilarious. I didn't realize I put them on looking like an antennae. You can feel your way home. I didn't notice that until I just looked now. Yeah, I look like two antennae. Like a giant beetle. Hey, if I'm going to get my ass chewed out tomorrow, I'm going to make it worth it. Oh, that's fucking hilarious. Two antennae. Thank God he can't open his beak and bite my ass. It's zip-tied shut with two antennae. Like them chicken feet. One go one way, one go the other way. You can use them as pointers. Oh, I'll hear about it tomorrow. That thing will be ringing off the hook. The little light that's on the side will be fucking flashing like crazy. He'll be up in the CEO's office begging for wire cutters to snap the zip ties off his beak. Then I'll have to get a couple of more out of the tray in my desk. Maybe the next ones will be like black or white. I don't think I got any blue ones or orange ones. I don't want to waste the red ones. I got red ones. I got a shitload of black ones. Oh yeah, my kid, he's got me in zip ties to the year 2120. One day I'll show you the bag. Oh, I got zip ties in that bag he brought home. They're 6 foot long. I've never seen zip ties that long. They're huge. Yeah, 6 foot long zip ties. I don't know what they'd use a 6 foot zip tie on, but I've got them. I got them all sizes, little ones, those size, and 6 footers. Yeah, he come home with them one day and went, "Here, Dad, look at." I said, "What the hell's those?" He goes, "Zip ties." I was like, "They make them 6 foot long?" He goes, "Oh, we got them bigger and longer. I just couldn't get you any." How long of a zip tie do they make? Do they make them like that wide and 20 foot long? I'm going to have to check it out. What is the largest zip tie made? But yeah, I got some 6 footers. They're rolled up in the bag with the rest of them. It's my zip tie bag. Hidden away from him. Because if he ever finds it, they're all gone. Although I'll probably come in one day and he'll have a 6 footer and he'll drape it around my neck and pull. You have to bring one in the studio. A lot of people have never seen a 6 foot long zip tie. It's about 3/4 of an inch wide. They're huge. I don't know what they'd use them for, but I could use a couple of them to keep the quarter panels on my truck. They say, zip ties and duct tape. I'm not to the duct tape yet. Just ratchet strap right now. Although I did notice today, it looks like my tailgate's starting to fall off again. I'm going to have to figure a way to put it back on. Because there ain't nothing really to hold it anymore. It's just there, it's like imagination. See, I was going to cut all that shit off. And then I was going to build a flatbed. Until I saw the price of wood. God. By the time I priced up what I would need to make a nice flatbed for the truck, I would have had to go to the bank and get financing. God, the price of wood nowadays. I got a brand new 2x4 in the basement I'm thinking of auctioning off one day. Hold a big auction in the front yard. Highest bid for a 2x4, $5, $7, $12, $18, $18.50, $19. I could probably get $50 out of one 2x4. You don't believe me? Go into the homeless depot sometime. Check out the price of lumber. Holy shit. Would we stop growing trees all of a sudden or what? I know, California with their wildfires, but Washington State, And Canada. What's the matter? You Canadians don't like us anymore or what? Yeah. Check out the price of lumber. Unbelievable. I was shocked. I was like, matter of fact, I says to the guy, is that for like that whole pallet? He said, no, that's for one piece. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Cost me like $1,000 to build up. I could go buy one for that. But I would like to build a little flatbed for the back end before the fenders all fall off. And I'm dragging them down the road one day. Oh yeah, it's a rot bucket. The only thing left in the bed is the cross members. I got a piece of plywood in there. If I took it out, you could see the road. If I wanted to check my exhaust system, I just lift the plywood up and go, oh, it's okay. Yeah. I got no floor, just cross members. And the quarter panels are rotten. They were flapping. So I had to put a big ratchet strap because one day I lost the tailgate. I hear this horn blow and I look in my mirror, lights are flashing. I stopped. Guy pulls up alongside me, says, hey, your tailgate's laying back there in the road. I almost ran it over. Really? Then I looked. Quarter panels are laying out like his zip ties. So he helped me he was holding the tailgate. I wrapped the ratchet strap around it, tightened it up, brought them quarter panels back in. That's the way it's been for 2 years. One day my friend was like, you got a ratchet strap I can borrow? I says, yeah, in the truck. Luckily, I caught him. He was starting to reach for the one on the bed. I was like, no, under the seat. Don't take that one out. The tailgate will fall off. I was like, oh, shit. Almost had a disaster. Oh, yeah, if I loosen that ratchet strap, them quarter panels will flop right out. They're just being held on by the back, the cross brace at the back of the cab. But they're slowly going. There ain't much holding that truck together. Front fenders flapping the breeze. Every time I slam a door, another piece of the body falls off. But it runs. Yeah, it's sad. Thing don't even have 150,000 miles on it yet. Looks like an escapee from a boneyard. Something they should have crushed 20 years ago. But I'm still driving it. Matter of fact, I just ordered my new sticker. Good for another year. I'm sure it'll run for another year. I might not have a floor, but that's what they make street signs for. Got a hole in your floorboard? Steal a street sign off a telephone pole. Then cover it up with a floor mat so the police don't see it. And they're aluminum. They won't rust. I'm giving my trade secrets away. People will be looking in the cab going, what's under them floor mats? It's still the floor. It's still good. And with that, I think it's time to say goodnight. I have to think of a story for tomorrow. Oh, I got a story for tomorrow. I went in the store today to get a loaf of Jewish rye. There wasn't any. So tomorrow morning, I'm calling Kevin. And say, hey, Kevin? Yes, sir? You know who this is? No. It's the grumpy old man. And he'll be like, oh, fuck, no, don't tell me there's no bread. No, there was no bread. It was my time for my second loaf of the week. Oh, there was like 100 loaves of Schwabel's Giant White. Not one crumb of Jewish rye. That's the story for tomorrow night. I'll let you know how my phone call with Kevin goes. I know he's not going to be happy to hear from me. And neither is the rope man. I can see Kevin calling him right after he gets off the phone with me going, hey, the fuck you doing? I told you I didn't want to hear from that asshole again. He called me. No bread. I don't think he made his Friday delivery because they couldn't have sold out that fast when he's coming Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I think he's starting to fuck with me. Tomorrow's my turn. Yep. And with that, that's our story for tomorrow night. Talk to you tomorrow. What happened to my clicker? Take two. Talk to you